probably don't know it, but you're in Congressional District 4, home of Congresswoman Betty McCollum. I live in Congressional District 4. Do you know how many times Betty answers my letters and phone calls? Yeah, you got that right. And just so you know, we invited all of them to show up today, and they didn't do it.
County of Evil Betty.
Not only do we have people in Congressional District 4 who get together to pay Betty's office a visit, that's such a good idea, all the other districts should be doing the same. We could also find out when they're coming in on their flight in. We could show up at the airport with these fantastic signs that you guys have. Just so you know, they probably won't let the pitchforks into the airport either. Next up, we have Ed Morrissey. Ed is a conservative blogger, columnist, motivational speaker, and talk show host. He goes by the nickname Captain Ed and lives in the Twin Cities area. His original blog, Captain's Quarters, great blog, ran from October 2003 to February 2008. Now he is a full-time blogger for Hot Air, another great blog. I'd also like to say he's a blogger for Look True North, another great blog, so that's one you should be reading every single day. He participates in Blogging Heads. His opinion articles have appeared in the New York Sun, the New York Post, and the Daily Standard. Please welcome Ed Morrissey.
I want to thank all of you for coming out here today to express your opposition to the most expansive government takeover attempt in our history. When the Minnesota majority asked me to speak today at this rally, I was proud to contribute in any way to the national movement that was prompted by a government that's become a force for its own perpetuation instead of a servant for its constituents. Yeah. Washington has forgotten that it represents the people rather than themselves. That arrogance, and the microphone, there we go. Better? Thank you. That arrogance has awakened this country. It has come together like never before to say no to the nanny state. That's right! And to tell Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, and Barack Obama to butt out of our lives. I'm amazed at the hubris of some politicians and their elite group of allies in Washington, D.C. Now, maybe in early 2009, after the big election win that they had in November, they may have had an excuse to assume that they had a mandate for a radically statist agenda, one that sought to make the most private decisions a matter of government policy. Since last summer, though, they've had no excuses whatsoever. The American people have overwhelmingly rejected ObamaCare. We marched to town halls across this country last August to show members of Congress just how angry their attempt to overhaul the American medical system has made us. And you know they heard that message. You know they heard that message. You know how you know they heard that message? Because they're trying to cram this particular version of ObamaCare through before the next recess. They're afraid of you. They're afraid of letting their members come back and face you. They're trying to get this through before you have a chance to tell them exactly what you think of it for the second time. Kill the bill! So how unpopular has this become? I mean, it's really not difficult to figure this out. Even the pollsters have figured this out. Associated Press, last week, Associated Press showed that 68% of Americans oppose the use of reconciliation to pass health care reform. That's over 2/3 of the American public telling Congress no. 2 weeks ago, CNN, not exactly a bastion of conservative thoughts, showed that 73% wanted Congress to start over from scratch or just forget about health care reform in this session altogether. Now that was spoke because that same poll was taken in November and it was 72% back then. In fact, there were 9 national polls taken in February from major pollsters and media organizations. All 9 of them showed national opposition to Obamacare, ranging from 9 points to 20 points. Not only is this bill too radical for the American people, it's too radical even for some Democrats in Congress. That has not convinced Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama to withdraw it, or to start working with their opponents to find some common sense compromises to reform the cost structure of health care in America. Instead, Nancy Pelosi has decided to attack the structure of representative government by attempting to pass the Senate version of Obamacare without a floor vote in the House, as our Representative Kline just described earlier. Oh, you don't like that? That's how desperate the nanny staters are to defy you and saddle America with a government overhaul of our healthcare system that we don't want. Just 14 months after taking complete control of Washington, Democrats facing Waterloo in the midterm elections. In November 2008, we'll be singing Waterloo in November, I promise you that. In November 2008, Obama, Pelosi, and Reid thought they had a mandate to fundamentally remake America through a hard left agenda. Today, surveys of likely voters show Republicans favored Democrats on generic congressional ballots by wide margins. That hasn't happened since 1994, and you remember what happened in 1994? The Democrats tried shoving an expansive government takeover of the healthcare system down the throats of Americans, and we came back out to the polls and sent them packing. Now, they think they're going to forget all this by November. They think that you're going to forget all this. You're going to pass it right now, you're going to forget. You're not going to forget. We have a message for them today, don't we? And it's not that the time for talk is over. We have a president who's saying the time for talk is over, the time for talk is over, the time for talk is over. He's talking about the fact that this time for talk is over and over again. I call this the shut up, he explained tour. But we have a message for President Obama, for Nancy Pelosi, and for Harry Reid. We're not going to forget how a small cadre of elites in Congress attempted to put a bill into law without a vote, are we? Will you forget how Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, and Barack Obama wrote these bills in backroom deals with lobbyists and then demanded votes before anyone could read what these 2,000-page behemoths contain? That's why it's so important to keep the pressure on Congress. Don't let them ignore us. Keep coming out to these rallies. Keep calling your Washington offices to tell them what?